to think about how to create new products or price them differently or package them differently.
Dallas will open up my data to a broad range of clients, a wider range of customers than I could ever hope to achieve via standard search technology.
Microsoft Dallas, the information marketplace for open data. We're very, very excited about this. So what have we seen? So we have seen that the web is undergoing a profound shift, the shift from websites to web APIs. This shift allows us to power all these different experiences, whether it be on the Windows Phone 7, it be on Windows, the Mac OS, the Palm Web OS, or any browser. And this is a shift that you really need to internalize and think deeply about. We certainly are. We think the world is changing in some profound ways, and we're very excited about the opportunities that we have here. So I began the talk by talking about 3 different questions, which we've posed and answered. The first was, how do I enable all those different experiences in a rich way? Leveraging query, leveraging metadata, leveraging the browser as a first-class programming environment. And the solution for that is the Open Data Protocol. The Open Data Protocol makes it easy to both consume as well as stand up web APIs and get broad reach across the board. The second question I posed was, how do I make my API scalable? How do I make it reliable? And the solution is Windows Azure and SQL Azure. And the third question I posed was, how do I make money? How do I evangelize and bring my data set and my web API to a new audience and take my business model with it? And the solution for that is Dallas. And this is just the beginning. We are very excited about this services powering experiences world. There are things like synchronization that we think deeply about, things like caching, things like management, things like operations, things like security. And so we're really looking forward to continuing the conversation with both you and the community as we move to a services powering experiences world. And with that, I'd like to invite up on the stage Bill Buxton, one of my favorite speakers, who's going to be leading us through the rest of the event. Thank you.
So here we are, doing what comes naturally. So I wanted to, I'm going to do something I didn't plan on doing. Here's the deal. I just got to tell you why I love this community and why I love this industry. So here's what happened. So the last 2 days, today and yesterday, we've had all this stuff about these great tools, all this stuff about mobile and so on and so forth. And it's all really neat, but it's just the technology. It's not the people part of it. So I got to tell you, here's something that happened. So I'm going to tell you this little story. I got to start with this guy named Benjamin Livermore. And you've never heard of him, but in 1857, he was the first person to make a mobile device that you could do text entry on. It was called a typograph. And Benjamin used to walk around in his hand in his pocket with this little thing at a 6-button chording keyboard, and he could text and write and take notes on that. So he was texting to himself. The wireless wasn't quite there yet. And well, it was wireless, but just didn't talk to anything. And he would take notes. And so we were in a meeting yesterday with some folks, having seen all the great tools for Mobile 7 and so on. And they said, so Bill, what do you think's missing? I was sort of saying, well, I'm kind of missing the fact that, with touchscreens, you kind of have to look when you're entering text. And it would be kind of neat if you could actually, like a 12-year-old schoolgirl, when you're answering a question in math, be texting your friend sort of saying, what are you going to do tonight type of thing. And so I just threw out this nonsensical idea that, well, why not use Morse code? Now, the first thing that some of you under 30, Morse code is something I use to, okay, it's up here. So you just have, it's a touch typewriter. It just happens to only have one key, and you just do dots and dashes, right? And so I just threw this out. And so at 12:30 last night, I'm in my, I just go read my mail before, and lo and behold, this guy David Yak, who heard me say this, he sends me this stinking app, and here it is. It's a Win 7 series phone mobile app built on the tools that you could download yesterday morning that actually lets you Twitter or tweet with Morse code. So so I figured this is pretty cool. This is what I love about this business and stuff and these people. It's just crazy. It means that stuff actually works, but actually, here's what it really says. My favorite thing. Scott's been sweating. Scott Guthrie, you were so 5 minutes ago. It's just, it's just, you know, forget this QWERTY keyboard stuff, 1857. So you know, in some sense, that brings us back to the notion of what this is about. We're talking really a lot about technology, but of course, that's not what we do. That's the enabler. And so I'm going to, surprise, surprise, talk a bit about design. And so we've got these great tools, and we've got great talent. It's obvious from what we're seeing. And the question is, if we work so hard to build those tools and to develop our own personal talent and how to use them, then how do we make sure we make the best use of them? It's not how do we build things in the greatest way, how do we build the greatest things, most worthy things in a great way, right? You get the right design and the design right. And so I wanted today to, this topic, you know, we talk about natural user interfaces and stuff like that, but I don't want to say that, so that's why I said that if you don't know about Annie Get Your Gun or Annie Oakley, she rode with Buffalo Bill, and she was a shootin'est female sharpshooter around at the time. But Doing What Comes Naturally is her theme song from Annie Get Your Gun, and that's where this all comes from. And if we come back to this notion about personal skill, high performance, that's what Annie did, is how do we build tools that let us capture that human capacity? And so I'm going to push the big natural green button to take us into, because here we are in Vegas, right? What a fantastic place to talk about natural user interfaces, right? How more natural can you get? I mean, it's so natural here, man. It's supernatural. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And so I look at these, the surroundings we're in, and so we talk about, I just love the paradox. Okay, so here we go. All over, you've heard people talking now, that it must be real because it's got a Wikipedia page about this NUI, this natural user interface. And so the question that starts coming is sort of like, this is like, as this slide shows, is natural user interface and NUI the new black? Is it the black of the day, and tomorrow something else is going to be the new black? And so just coming out in the shadows of this blackness is this thing called natural UI. And so the question is, can we put some skin on the bones that makes it mean something, in a sense that when we're designing and approaching our systems, that we can actually have something that we can bring from an attitudinal sense to what we're doing. And I don't know if you know this, my background is in music, and from that, and I started off as a professional musician, frustrated with the instruments I had, and started to build digital instruments. The first multi-touch device that we did in 1984 was actually, we were making a drum, a percussion instrument for our synthesizer. Here's the thing. Ultimately, you think about it, musicians are the profession that has the longest history of expressing powerful and creative ideas through a technological intermediary. It's a really interesting way to think about it. And you start thinking, well, maybe, therefore, there's this huge history about instrument design. It's called the luthier in French, the lute builder, that brings us to it. And so you look at this violin, and here's what's really fascinating. People say, well, you can't build a mouse for more than $15. People won't pay for it. But the bow of this violin costs over $10,000. The bow of any professional violinist in the first violinist in the symphony orchestra costs at least $10,000. If they're counterbass, it's even more than that. And that's the mouse to the instrument. The instrument could cost up to $1 million. And these are people who don't make any money. They're musicians. They're not computer scientists or developers. So as a percentage of income, that's a fortune. But the value is there because it's worth learning, it's worth the investment. And it's all about the return on investment. And so we look at this instrument and you sort of say, I just say, there's 3 levels of complexity. There's normal specification, there's military spec, and then there's rock and roll musician spec. And that last one is the one, because not only does it stand up, work all the time as it needs, it's worthy of the skills that the users invested, and it reflects them beautifully. So, as they say in French, soyez un luthier. Be a lute builder, and approach your designs that way. Now, I'm going to give you some notions about what this means in terms of natural user interface, and I am now going to stick my neck totally out. So this is something called the WX7. This is my computer interface, and I had a little bit to do with this, but it came out around 1987. And it's an electronic saxophone. Now, I happened to do my degree in music, and that